USSR radiation video. There are few disasters in history as horrifying as a Chernobyl explosion. The aftermath left many suffering from one of the most excruciating conditions imaginable, that being acute radiation syndrome or ARS. To prepare medical professionals for what they would be facing, Soviet authorities produced an instructional training video detailing the effects of extreme radiation exposure. The footage is graphic, unfiltered, and deeply unsettling.
Как происходит поражение людей ионизирующими излучениями? При ядерном взрыве средней мощности на организм действуют 5 основных.
At a point in the video, we can see a man who has suffered radiation burns. His skin is darkened, peeling, and covered in lesions, a sign that his cells are dying at an accelerated rate. The black substance smeared on him is iodine, which was used in an attempt to decontaminate his skin and slow down the radiation absorption. But in reality, for someone this heavily exposed, iodine was a little more than a desperate measure. Radiation exposure doesn't just burn the skin, but it destroys the body from the inside out. At high doses, it begins tearing apart DNA and preventing cells from regenerating. The skin melts away, the bone marrow is obliterated, and the immune system collapses. Victims experience excruciating pain, vomiting, and organ failure as their body literally disintegrates and liquefies over the course of days or weeks. What makes radiation poisoning especially terrifying is that it doesn't kill quickly. Victims often go through a brief period of improvement where they believe they're getting better, only for their body to begin rotting from the inside shortly after. Death can take weeks, and there is almost nothing that can be done to stop it. It is, without a doubt, one of the worst ways a human can die. This disturbing video serves as a haunting reminder of the true horror of nuclear disaster, a fate so painful and inescapable no human should ever have to endure it. The Sewol Ferry Disaster. On April 16, 2014, one of the worst disasters in recent history unfolded off the coast of South Korea. The Sewol Ferry, which was carrying 476 passengers, with most of them being high school students on a field trip, began to sink after making a sudden sharp turn. Instead of ordering an immediate evacuation, the crew instructed students to stay inside their cabins and wait, and that is exactly what they did. Here, we see the mixed emotions of some of the students trapped inside. Some are laughing nervously, reassuring themselves that everything will be fine, and others are in a state of panic. The announcement over the speakers tells them not to move, that staying put is their safest option, and they believed it. But that decision would ultimately cost them their lives. As time passed, rescue boats arrived, but for most of the students inside, it was already too late. The ship continued sinking, and the water reached the lower cabins where they had been told to stay. Here, we can see some disturbing footage of some of the students who would eventually die, watching the rescue boats from the window as the ship was sinking. Eventually, those rescue boats had no choice but to leave them behind. What was really outrageous though is those who disobeyed the orders and made their way up to the deck actually had a chance to be rescued, but the ones who followed instructions and stayed inside ended up mostly dead. Also, the captain who gave the orders wasn't with the students. He was one of the first ones to escape and abandoned the ship while hundreds of children were still inside. But perhaps the most shocking moment came later, when the captain was questioned about the tragedy. Instead of accepting responsibility, he blamed the students themselves and claimed they weren't able to properly evacuate because they were too young and immature to recognize the danger they were in and follow instructions, even though the instructions were to stay put and wait.
당시에 물건이 있었는지.
예, 그리고 그 세월호 앞에 학생들이 되게 위험하게 계속 소리지고 해도 빨리 그쪽으로 벗어나라고 소리질러도 애들이 어려서 철이 없었는지 위험하다는 걸 못 느꼈는지.
예, 여러분, 네, 방청 여러분 정해 주세요. 네.
As you can see by the reaction of the audience at the time, people were not happy with that statement. The captain of the ferry was originally sentenced to 36 years in prison for gross negligence and abandoning passengers. But after an appeal, the Supreme Court of South Korea increased his sentence to life in prison. It later came out that there had been illegal modifications to the ship as well. This was done to increase its capacity, which raised its center of gravity and made it more prone to tipping over. In the end, 304 people lost their lives, 250 of them being young students. It was a disaster not just caused by an accident, but by sheer negligence. To this day, the Seoul ferry disaster remains as one of South Korea's darkest moments. Trent Pascal. In this video, you can see a man sending a message to his kids. That man is Trent Pascal, and this was likely filmed right before he decided to take the life of his wife, Savannah Pascal.
I'm recording this because I want my daughter to know that I love you, Mackenzie Pascal. I'm so sorry that I've done this. I want you to know that you mean everything to me. And William, I love you too. I love you so much. I love you like you're my own. I didn't choose this. Your mom chose this. She's been cheating on me for a long time. I have audio of her talking to other guys. I didn't do nothing wrong to her, but she's been playing me for a fool. I told her not to mess with me, not to mess with my emotions. Don't play with me. I put everything into this relationship. I have done nothing to your mom. I've never hit her. I've never hurt her. I've never called her names. I've done everything I can. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm like, why me? My hair's a mess and I look horrible. I'm hurting so bad.
What's interesting about the video is the way he's trying to justify his actions to his kids. By what he's saying, he likely wants to be seen as a victim. There's a lot of self-pity, blame shifting, and mental gymnastics, as if he's a reasonable man who was just driven to this by the actions of his wife. It was never confirmed that she was cheating, so that part could have been true or just paranoia. Even more disturbing though is what happens in the end. From the sound, it seems like he's entering a bathtub and closing the shower curtain. When his wife entered the house, he jumped out of the shower and shot her. So it's likely that this video was filmed right before that happened. Pascal fled the scene but was later caught and arrested. He managed to get a release on bond, and instead of facing trial, he went out on the run again, ultimately taking his own life when police tried to capture him the second time. Underwater human remains. A group of divers was exploring a deep underwater sinkhole in Mexico, which is known for its unique underwater rock formations. The divers were there for recreational purposes, and this was meant to be an ordinary dive just to explore the natural formations, but it later turned out to be anything but that. At some point while exploring, they stumbled across several human remains of other divers which were oddly well preserved, with their gear still intact. This indicates they had either gotten lost while diving or ran out of oxygen. Sinkhole and cave dives are some of the most dangerous types of dives. They can often have strong currents, and once you've entered inside the cave, there's no straight path to the surface, making it easy to get lost or run out of air while trying to find your way back. That's if the currents don't sweep you first. The divers reported their findings to the authorities. After investigating, it later turned out that some of these divers had gone missing for decades. This was a chilling reminder for them of how wrong things can go if unprepared. Bungee jumping disaster. A 23-year-old woman and a 25-year-old man are bungee jumping together off a bridge in Georgia. The two were a couple. As it later turned out, this jump would lead to their deaths. There is conflicting information on what happened, but from watching the video, it appears that they are using ordinary climbing ropes. These types of ropes are too stiff and designed to absorb smaller amounts of shock, since in climbing, falls get stopped from a much shorter distance. On top of that, bungee jumping ropes are much more elastic. In this case, either the ropes broke or they came loose from their attachment. Somehow, the same spot had been running without problems for years before this incident happened, even with a 2-person jump, and surprisingly, it's still running to this day. The woman died on the spot, while the man was taken to the hospital and died from his injuries later that night.